Hey, everybody. Hey, welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. My name is Jeff Pearson. I am your host today, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you have a voice, you have a community, and you are not alone. And to that end, I have an amazing guest I'd like to introduce you to. Dr. J. Dunn has obviously many accolades, but her current passion is myhappygenes.com, which does DNA testing and analysis to determine a person's best diet, lifestyle, and supplementation based on the results of that test. And so her goal is to help as many people as humanly possible regain optimal health and happiness, and ultimately live longer, happier lives through personalized nutrition, which is personalized is always better, right? Instead of the just what vitamins do I take? What supplements do I take? In addition to My Happy Genes, Dr. Dunn is the founder and owner of the Holistic Kinesiology Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Holistic Kinesiology, that's a mouthful, a Holistic Kinesiology Institute, Inc. She is a published author and international lecturer on the topics of genetics and methylation. Her books include Holistic Kinesiology and Perfect Health in Paradise, both available on Amazon. Let's meet Dr. Dunn. Good morning, Dr. Dunn. Hello. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on the show, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I almost feel a little bit over my head with this because and maybe some other people that are watching are going to feel the same way, but I'm excited throughout the episode to get a little educated here because I'm just not familiar with everything here, but I can't wait to learn. So can you just first of all, just share a little bit maybe about your journey with chronic fatigue syndrome? Like how did it start? What symptoms did you have? That's kind of like what sent you down this road of everything we're going to talk about today, right?
Yeah, it did. That and depression, a pretty severe depression that I was dealing with. So I'm a natural healthcare practitioner. Chiropractor is my doctorate, chiropractic.
Nice.
I studied functional medicine, and kinesiology is my passion, and that's muscle testing. So it's just a magical technique where you can really kind of talk to the body and get information from it. But so I've been a healthcare practitioner for about 35 years and had a very successful practice in Albuquerque. And during that time, I had great success with people with all kinds of conditions. And during that time, though, I was struggling with my own chronic fatigue syndrome and depression, and nobody really knew it. I just kind of like, it's what we do. We just kind of muddle through and we get through the day. always thought it was kind of my fault, or there was something I was doing wrong. Maybe I wasn't eating right. Maybe I needed to do some emotional clearing, whatever. I was always looking for answers to my own health issues, during this whole time. It seemed like I could fix pretty much everybody else, but my situation seemed to, not budge. And so I kind of figured out over time that maybe there was a piece of the puzzle missing. And so several things led me to that conclusion. One was, of course, my condition, but there were certain patients that no matter what I did, I couldn't seem to get anywhere with. I'm really successful with most of them, but there were a subset where I couldn't seem to make any progress. And then one other thing, and when I look back on it, and we blame a lot of things on genetics, but my father died when I was 20. He was 55, and he died of lung cancer. And it wasn't a big mystery. He was a big smoker and drinker, and he never did anything healthy, I don't think, in his life. But the interesting thing was his best friend, doing all the same things, smoking and drinking and not doing anything healthy, married my mother after my father died, doing the same things, lived another 30 years. Wow. So the only thing you can say about that is good genes, right? It's,
right. That's the typical thing. Well, you just had good genes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people can get away with all kinds of abuse to their bodies and they have no, repercussions from it. And other people are like one little misstep and they're taken down. And so maybe your audience can relate to some of that as well. And, as far as invisible conditions go, chronic fatigue syndrome is often blamed on the patient. The doctors will say, well, you just need to have a better attitude. You just need to get out there and walk. You need to get out there, stop eating, whatever, they often put it back on the patient. And it's very frustrating. And it kind of makes you question your own sanity. But so anyway, I started looking into genetics when I kept hearing this word methylation, and you kind of mentioned it there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that was. Like, what is methylation? I kept hearing it being mentioned in the natural healthcare realm and also the allopathic healthcare realm. And I started to do a deep dive into it. I Googled it. I'm like, what is that? Got a hold of this video by a guy named Rich von Konynenberg, and he was doing research on genetic variants associated with chronic fatigue syndrome. They're really calling it myalgic encephalitis at this point, which is, encephalitis. You know what that is? It's like brain swelling, right?
Yeah.
Myalgic.
Well, myalgic kind of sounds like the second half of fibromyalgia, right? So
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So they lump them together, fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. And, so they call it myalgic encephalitis at this point. But anyway, he was looking into that, and he was working with people's genetic variants and giving them very specific targeted nutrition. Wow. And was having incredible success with it. And I went, oh my God, this is it. This is the missing piece. I'm in my pajamas and I'm writing notes madly going, oh my God, and goosebumps because I knew it was the missing piece. Yeah. And so, I got my genes tested, did, 23andMe initially, way back then, and put it through an algorithm that kind of pulls out some genes that are of interest. And so I was looking at them, and one of them was the vitamin D receptor. It's the VDR.
Yeah.
And I have what's called a homozygous variant there. I'll tell you what that is. Yeah, so please. You get one set of genes from mom, one set of genes from dad. And that's your code for making enzymes. So in the VDR department, both parents give you, the code to make that receptor that accepts vitamin D, right? Mm-hmm. But if they have a variation, like there's one little base pair is changed on there, if you've inherited the wrong code for that particular enzyme or receptor, then it doesn't work the same way. It's impaired in its ability to function, So for vitamin D receptor, normally, vitamin D comes along and the receptor takes it and boom, certain things happen in the body. Yeah. But for me, receptors closed, can't get in there. It's like we can't absorb vitamin D. And so it's impaired. It's just slowed down a little bit normally, So when I started examining what does that do, it turns out that you have a high incidence of lung cancer if you smoke when you have that gene, a variant. Wow. And so I went, oh, that makes sense. It's also involved in how your immune system fights off infections. So for chronic fatigue syndrome, there's often the Epstein-Barr virus kind of involved, right? And it's also how we make neurotransmitters. So it's how we make serotonin and dopamine, which are kind of like our happy hormones.
Yeah.
So all three of those made sense to me. There's my depression, there's my dad, there's the chronic fatigue syndrome. And I went, oh, this makes sense to me. Now, that was, the first piece of this was it gave me a lot of compassion for myself that I wasn't making it up, that there was a real reason.
Right. It's not all in your head, right? It's
yeah,
exactly. That tagline is there for a reason. It's not. It is a common thing.
Yeah, it really is.
Really is. Am I really feeling this, or is it all in my head?
Yeah, absolutely. And for the first time, I thought, okay, is it in my head? I know there's a reason for it. And then I was like, well, sucks to be you, or can you do something about it?
Yeah.
So I did another deep dive into how does that receptor work? How do we upregulate? How do we make up for that genetic variant, and make it work better? And so I found it. I found the research, and there are specific nutrients that cause that receptor to open, and then D can get in. And that's what I did. So I took those specific nutrients. D gets in, bam, my brain chemistry changed almost immediately. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is happy. I'd heard about it, but I had never really felt it, because my brain couldn't make serotonin, couldn't make dopamine. Those are our main neurotransmitters that govern our mood, right?
Oh my gosh.
And then 2 weeks later, my chronic fatigue syndrome gone. It was like the immune system turned on to full blast. Out goes the virus, out goes the chronic infections, and like a whole new day. It was like, And so it got my attention, especially when it works for you, right? You go,
right.
After looking I had chronic fatigue syndrome for 40 years. I had, the Epstein-Barr virus. I had mono when I was 16. And so I'm 63 now, but at that time I'd had it for 40 years.
Yeah.
And struggled with it, and just like always thinking there's something wrong with me. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't get on top of it. It was just like a daily thing, but now it's gone. It's just completely gone. And my mood is here, it's not down here all the time trying to get up to here. It stays here, and my energy stays there as well. So it was big. And I thought, whoa, if it worked for me, it's got to work for other people. There's got to be other genes too that are troublemakers that we can work with. And so I started to do that. And I put together a biochemical map and started inserting where the genetic variants were that kind of like govern how we detox, how we get rid of histamine, how we make energy, how we fight infections. All the little functions that happen at the cellular level are governed by how well your genes are working, or how well your enzymes are working that your genes code for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, a little bit. I mean, one thing that I have a question about though is, okay, so what about the fight or flight, or fight, flight, or freeze, right? And because a lot of people, me included, or especially over the last couple of years until very recently, the fight or flight is a big part of protecting yourself, right? Protecting your body and your mind and your just everything. And so, but if you're constantly in fight or flight, that's also something that needs to, I don't know, that I don't think that's a gene thing though. Is it? I thought that was more of like a response to an outside thing, but or something maybe like with a surgery. Like that was my suspicion with me, is after the last brain surgery I had a couple years ago, like my fight or flight was just off the charts, and I like sleeping was almost impossible because of it. And so, but you're saying that's at a gene level still.
It's both. Yeah, it's environment and genes. So there's a gene called the COMT that breaks down adrenaline, and adrenaline is that's your fight or flight response, right? So if your set point is up here because you have a genetic variant in that COMT enzyme, you can't break adrenaline down readily. It'll eventually break down, but you add a stress on top of it and you're up here.
Yeah.
You can't get it out of your system efficiently like other people can, right? So it sets you up for PTSD, for, for that, chronic, they call it sympathetic dominance, where you stay in that like constant, like stress state. So the genes load the gun, the environment pulls the trigger. So,
Right. Well, and not even environment. Like I talk about when I try to describe this to people, because they because you can't see it, they don't understand. They're like, well, I don't get it. Nothing looks wrong. But you say, well, it's not the kind of stress that like, oh my God, I almost got eaten by a bear, I had to run, or oh my God, I almost got hit by a car, or that kind of thing. It's like systemic stress. It's internal. Your body is feeling it, but you don't consciously until it's like too late. And then it's, then you're done. And then it like lands you on your back or something. So that's the kind of, that's what you're talking about though.
Yeah. It's interesting because you don't know the difference. So if you're born with, if you're born with that comp variant your whole life, you're kind of compensating for this anxiety that's kind of always there. So you learn how to meditate, you learn how to manage it. However, we self-medicate and we learn how to just sort of try to calm down our nervous systems, however you deal with it.
Compensate somehow, yeah.
Compensate. Yeah. And once you get, the right exact nutrients to turn that dial down, you don't have to work at it anymore. Like I don't have to work at being happy anymore. I'm just there. It's just my set point now.
Right.
But same with that comp. And then there's another one that's kind of in the brain chemistry area called the MAO, which is the warrior gene. And if you have a genetic variant there, it keeps you from breaking down the irritability hormones, so it makes you constantly, why am I so irritable? Why do I jump, why do I jump the gun at people? And why do I get so irritated so easily? That's the warrior gene. You can imagine where that came from, at least, when genes are passed down. Our ancestors were they selected for those genes because they gave them an advantage, right? It's a natural selection.
Yeah.
So, their ancestors were warriors and they won the wars and they were able to pass on their genes to the next generation. And so it's fascinating because, it's so accurate. When we get your genes tested, you can really see this is why I'm irritable. This is why I'm anxious all the time. This is why I'm depressed all the time. Yeah. This is why I'm OCD, or this is why, why I am the way I am. And it's not my fault. It is a biochemical. So the fascinating thing, Jeff, is, with somebody that has like that anxiety kind of stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
They'll blame it on something, like, oh, it was because I had surgery. No, I'm not to say that isn't traumatic. I'm not taking that away. Yeah. But they'll blame it on like, oh, I have too much to do, or I have a lot of stress in my life, or I got too much work, or, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you calm them down, when their physiology calms down, they go, well, I guess my load is better now or something. It's funny how we have a story now.
Well, no, it's kind of like with the smoking thing. I've worked with so many people over the years, and I've, like, you name it, I've done it. And all these jobs, a lot of the jobs, I worked with people that smoked, and they'd go out on their smoke break and they'd say, oh, I need a cigarette to psych myself up. Oh, I need a cigarette to calm down. Right. It's not really.
It's self-medicating.
It's whatever you think it is. It's psychological sort of at that point, but it's that kind of reminded me of that. Yeah. It's like,
the really cool thing. What's that?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So the really cool thing is, we started working with addicts, and one of the first addicts I worked with was a meth addict. And if you know anything about methamphetamine, you know how addictive that is and how difficult it is to get people off of that.
Yeah.
And she was a young girl, and she had 2 kids at home, and her aunt was my patient. And the kids would call up their aunt and say, Mom's gone again. Can you come and get us? Because she'd go off and do meth and, get wherever they go.
Yeah.
And so the aunt said, can you do anything with this? And she brought the niece in. Wow. And I said, I don't know. This is when we were first starting to work with genetics. And I said, let's try it. And she was willing. I mean, she didn't want to be that way. She didn't want to leave her kids. And this is not something that you choose readily. Right. Yeah. Again, self-medicating. But when I put her on a program with, the genetics in mind, she almost immediately lost all desire for meth. We got the brain making dopamine, and dopamine is the hit that most addicts are looking for, to solve the brain chatter that's going on. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I need. And so, and so she came in and she's like, I don't have any desire for meth. And I was like, okay, we'll see. You do the, that's nice. Let's see it in a year, or let's see it in a month.
Talk to me in a week, even. Yeah.
Right. So a year went by. She got her kids back. She got her job back. She got a house. She had everything settled down. And then she stopped taking her supplements and went right back to meth. And the aunt called me up and said, don't let her run out of these supplements. We'll pay. Just send them every month. So, I'm in contact with her now, and it's been, I want to say 12, 13 years, and she's fine. She's completely off meth, and she has her kids. She just got married, and she has a full life. And that wouldn't have been the case, with meth. It's, it's downhill.
No, she probably wouldn't be around anymore honestly, at this point. I mean, that ride doesn't end well.
No, it doesn't. It's not a pretty ride. And then we saw it again with a coke addict who had been 20 years in and out of the system, robbing somebody, getting money, buying coke, doing coke, getting arrested, thrown in jail, rehab, 20 years of this cycle. And he's completely clean now. And that's been, I want to say 9 years now that he's been clean. And he's like the manager of a lumber store, and he's doing really well. So it was kind of cool. And it made a lot of sense to me because, when people walk around with low dopamine levels, depending on where it is in the brain, they're going to crave different things. So it could be cigarettes, it could be sex, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be work,
sweets or food, certain foods, right? Or, anything.
Yeah, that too. And so it's just fascinating when you flood the brain with the right neurotransmitters and get it balanced. They just stop doing the bad behaviors, So it's kind of cool. I think we had it backwards. We're trying to force people through willpower to stop. Just stop doing it. It's logical. They don't want to do it. They're not.
Yeah.
This is not something
just
they would
snap out of it, right? Just
Right.
No, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And I had another patient that, speaking of sugar cravings, she was so big. She would fly down from New York to New Mexico to see me, and she was so big that she had to buy 2 seats on the plane to make it there.
Yeah.
And, it was pretty clear to me and, pretty obvious that she was overeating, right? And so in the past, I would have said, hey, just cut out the sugar and start walking, do all those things, right? She's like, I can't walk. If I walk, I'm exhausted. There's no energy. I don't have any energy, I'm like, okay, I get that. Because when I had chronic fatigue syndrome, I couldn't walk either. I couldn't exercise. It would just completely destroy me,
Mm-hmm.
And people say, just get up, get walking, just do the things. And so, I didn't want to lecture her too heavy on it. And it's like, okay, well, we'll do the best, but let's do a genetic program on you. And so we designed the program around her genetics. And she went back to New York and called me a week later, and she's crying. And she said, it's not my fault. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, it wasn't my fault. I was craving sugar so badly that I'd eat a whole package of Oreos every night before bed. Ooh. And I said, yeah, it was pretty obvious that you were doing a lot of sugar. And she said, I don't even want it anymore. It's the weirdest thing. I have no desire for sugar. And I have energy and I feel like exercising. And I was like, oh, we have it backwards. Don't force people to get out there, eat right, exercise. If they can't, if they're saying to you, I can't do it. It's exhausting to me. It makes me feel bad. It makes me hurt. And I can't stop the cravings. That's a big signal that their biochemistry is off, not that their brain is off. It's the biochemistry that's happening. So that was a big lesson for me in compassion, because I think a lot of us judge people that are overweight as like lazy or
overweight or or they can't stop, or they can't stop anything, and like whatever it is, whatever the craving is. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be they spend half their paycheck on alcohol because they can't stop drinking, or they can't stop smoking, or they can't, whatever. It's when somebody is doing anything compulsively, people are gonna look at them and go, well, can't you just stop? I mean, don't you know that's killing you? And
Not
they can know it's killing them, but they also can't stop, right? Like these people knew that was bad for them, right? It's not like they thought it was great for their health.
Right. Newsflash, sugar's bad for you. Did you know?
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
But that's not to deny that there aren't emotional issues that can also drive people, to some of these behaviors. But if you get the biochemistry balance, then doing the counseling is much more impactful and has much more of a success, because they're not piling on and beating themselves up now. They're like, okay, I don't even want it anymore, and I want to go for a walk. Now let's talk about some of the emotional issues, and maybe we're driving that too. So it's much easier to deal with than trying to, force your physiology and have willpower.
It's almost like you're getting the static out of the way, right? It's like you're removing. It's like when there's another therapy that really benefited me a few years ago after one of my brain surgeries. But it was and the way they described it, I don't want to get too much into it because I want to keep focused on what we're talking about. But that was kind of what they talked about was, pretend like you're driving down the road, you're on a road trip, you're listening to the radio, you're jamming with whatever tune is on there. And then all of a sudden you go through under a bunch of wires or through a tunnel, and it gets really staticky. You can still kind of hear the music, but it takes so much more energy and so much more. It's like almost like exhausting just to wade through the static to still hear the music. And this particular therapy, that was kind of what he said, is we take the static away.
Yeah.
We remove the blockage, the static, and so that it's clear again. So, and that's kind of like, it sounds like what that's doing,
Yeah.
So cool.
I think it is. Yeah, exactly. But it's just optimizing your brain chemistry, optimizing your cells for making energy, and optimizing your immune system so that it fights infections instead of letting them hang out long term like mine was. So it's pretty remarkable. It's kind of revolutionary and sort of paradigm shifting, the whole concept. So it's going to take a while for people to understand it, and not go, oh, well, they need to do drugs. They need to do, antidepressants.
Yeah.
They need to do whatever to get their body balance. And let's make the body work like it's supposed to. And it's very precision precision diet and lifestyle and supplementation to turn on these enzymes that you've inherited that are kind of like not doing the job right.
Wow. We have so much. After we're done here, I have so many people I need to introduce you to, because there are half a dozen people. Or, well, I just wrote down 3 while you were talking just then, that I've met recently that are on the very, very similar track, and that are doing things a little different in a little different area, but definitely cohesive with what you're talking about. So we'll definitely chat after we're done here, but at this point, I want to do one thing real quick. I want to just go to a commercial break just for a minute. This seems like a good break time for that, and then we'll come back and we're going to talk more about. I love hearing stories, man. These stories are amazing. So we can definitely talk more about those, and then we're going to get into My Happy Genes. We're going to talk about the website and what you're doing, what all that is, and.
Okay.
And so everybody stick around, don't go anywhere, and we'll see you here in just a couple of minutes as soon as I find the right button to push, and then we'll go from there. All right, see you soon. See you in a couple minutes.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I want to just take this moment here to just address the audience for a second, because if you have questions, like if you're wondering, you're listening to this going, my mind is just exploding. I don't know what to make of this. This is where you want to be. You want to stick around for the next 20 minutes or so as we finish the rest of this show. And Dr. Dunn is your person to ask. You've got the expert right here. So during the broadcast, just reach out, put, it's on social media. Find a place to comment. We can reach out and get back to you and answer questions and get you what you need. So yeah, I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're talking.
Yeah.
So let's talk about let's talk genetics for a second. So my happy genes. I mean, I mentioned it in the intro. What the website here. I'm going to grab it real quick. Nope, that's not it. Oh man, see, buttons. I'm telling you, technology. See, I should call that guy I just had the commercial for. I should call Craig.
Yeah, right.
Hey. Ask Craig T. Let's see. Here we go. myhappygenes.com. There we go. So QR code if you want to scan that, or there's the website. So first of all, what are they going to see when they scan that QR code or go to that website?
So we have two parts to this company. When you go on, you can look at all the sort of general information about My Happy Genes, what we do, how we test, price of the test, and what all is involved. And you can actually download some samples of the reports, which are kind of cool.
Oh, cool.
Get an idea of, is this for you or not? And then you can get an ebook. There's a free ebook where you can sort of learn a little more before making decisions on whether or not this you think would benefit you. But the front-facing half, the consumer-facing half, you can get your genes tested and find out kind of like why you are the way you are. You can get also the diet and lifestyle report that kind of gives you the beginning of how do I work with this now? Okay, sucks to be me. Nope, there's answers. We can do something about it. There's specific diet recommendations, like protein is your best source, low carb, high fat, whatever. It's going to give you your best diet that way. But it'll also tell you, stay away from nightshade foods or lactose or gluten, or is intermittent fasting for me, or, some very specific information that's for you and not just general information. Because everybody says, oh, everybody should do intermittent fasting. It's not necessarily true. Or everybody should eat low carb. That is not true at all. So it's confusing out there to people,
yes.
The whole diet lifestyle kind of thing. But what about me? What is it for me? And it turns out it's very individual. I've looked at thousands of reports and it's never have I seen the same one on people. So yeah, it's a good place to start. And then if you want to go further, we have a bunch of practitioners that we refer to that know how to look at the other reports. There's 3 other reports. The third one is about your health conditions. Am I susceptible to Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or cardiovascular disease or autoimmune or, COVID even? There are genes that kind of give you an increased risk of getting COVID. But you can look at those and get sort of a sense of, what you've inherited. And it doesn't mean that that's going to express. It means that's your risks. And if you stick with diet, lifestyle supplementation, you can avoid those risks. So that's kind of cool.
So is one of those one of those tests or one of the things that you're talking about? Is it like, for instance, okay, so my condition is hydrocephalus, but somebody else's might be fibromyalgia, somebody else might have bipolar or whatever. I mean, you name it, right?
Mhm.
So how does that factor in? And like I did a blood test years ago. My wife and I and I think one of our children did this blood test where they go to the lab and they test the blood for specific things, and then they send it off to this company, and it sounds kind of like what you're doing, but just with the blood test. And they sent me back this like 5-page report with all the varying, severities of allergy or intolerance to like gluten and dairy and wheat or whatever. It was like hundreds of them.
Yeah.
But you're saying this is a little deeper than that, because this is specific to your gene. That was a blood test, but this is a little deeper.
Yeah, this is the genetic risk. And so,
Okay.
so we look at more like deep causes. So not just like, oh, there's a virus causing chronic fatigue syndrome. More like, why isn't your body killing that virus? What's happening at the cellular level? Why aren't your T cells, kind of mounting a defense essentially? So we don't go, oh, you have chronic fatigue syndrome. We go, you have a risk of it because your T cells, you have a genetic variant that keeps your T cells from activating. And here's what you do to remedy that.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? We're getting deeper into causes than we've ever gone before.
Yeah, I mean, well, and you're, I love it because I've talked to so many people over the life of this show and they have something in common. I don't know how we're just attracting these amazing people that are thinking this way, but they're going after the cause. They're not going after the symptom, right? They're not doing what the American medical system does, which is, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for good doctors and surgeons in the general, medical community. So I'm not like trying to throw them under the bus or anything.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, once the surgery's done and they've done the brain surgery and I'm out of the OR, then they kind of just drop you, right. And so all these other people that have come on are kind of in your realm where it's like, okay, we're going to treat the cause, not the symptom. We're not going to give you a pill to push pause on what you're feeling because that's not doing you any good. Right. You have to figure out why and actually alleviate or, I don't even know what the word is, but yeah, take care of the actual cause,
Yeah. And so it's interesting you should bring that up because, as a functional medicine practitioner in the past, we looked at causes differently. Okay. So let's say you go for a headache, you go to the doctor and you go, my head hurts. And he goes, oh, here's an aspirin. And you go, but you just covered it up. You don't, not telling me where it came from. You go to a functional medicine practitioner and they go, oh, it's because you're eating this, this, and this.
Okay.
And you're not getting enough sleep and da-da-da-da. And I go, why are you eating that, and that? And what's underneath that? What's even deeper into cause than, and I call it whack-a-mole medicine because I did it for 30 some years. I was going, oh, now it's a virus. Now it's bacteria. Now it's candida. Now it's this, we're putting out fires instead of like getting down below to where the fires are being started,
Well, that's kind of like the functional medicine. See, I had a lot of, I went to a functional medicine doc for a few weeks or a few months actually, and it was great. She was fantastic, but I did feel better afterwards. And she was focusing mostly on the gut brain kind of connection and the bacteria thing and it was great. But I couldn't help but notice that I was buying a lot of supplements and stuff, and like what is it all doing and what is it addressing? And if I stop taking these, am I going to go back to what's happening and like how? So I mean that feels like, to me, it feels like you're just putting a Band-Aid on it again, like taking a medication. So it's got to be deeper than that, so that you don't have to do that for the rest of your life, right?
Yes and no. So let me address that. That's a really good question. You have good questions, Jeff. You should be a podcast host or something.
Well, it's like we've done this before or something.
We've done it. So when I was a functional medicine practitioner, and I'm an herbalist, that was my training, I would say, oh, you got a virus. Here's a natural antiviral. Let's take that for 6 weeks and then come back and see me. And then there would be something else. And then, you're on another supplement. Now you're on another supplement.
Right. Yeah.
So I started to talk about the 5 reports that you get with My Happy Genes if you decide to go, all the way with a practitioner. The 4th one is a biochemical, and the 5th one is a supplement recommendation, and it's based on symptoms. So we have a symptom questionnaire, but it's also based on your genes and your biochemistry. So we triangulate that information. Okay, so just because you have that gene doesn't mean you take a supplement for it. It may not even be expressing.
Right.
But if you have the symptom and your biochemistry is off and you're showing that genetic variant, then yes, this is the right supplement for you. And it's a very precise list, and it may be 10, 12 things, but they're specific. They're like, for me, it's K2 and A and B6 and zinc and selenium. And that's my program for the rest of my life, because my genes aren't going anywhere unless I want to go back to where I was. I don't want to go back there.
No.
So it's my multiple that's designed to balance out my genetic variants that I inherited that lead to chronic fatigue syndrome and depression. So yeah, I'm going to take those. It's a whole lot better than taking a medication that has side effects.
Yeah.
Unwanted things happen with it. It's precision and based on the algorithm that we designed with My Happy Genes. So it calculates all that. These are the symptoms you have, these are the genes, and this is the biochemical pathway. But you can also go back and take the questionnaire in a month. Let's say you're having a lot less symptoms and your scores go down, your supplements will go down. So it'll go, boom, here's your final list that is going to keep you from getting Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or chronic fatigue or whatever it is that you're most susceptible to. The program itself designs it for you. So I can't do it all in my head. It takes an algorithm. And so we found a software company that designed it for us and made the algorithm work correctly so that we can get precision nutrients for people.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. So just out of curiosity, because I know medications to me sound like kind of like the throwing the mud against the wall and hoping something sticks, right? Because when the FDA approves a medication, right, it's for this thing, right? It's for this.
Right.
But then if they figure out that, like, we used to be natural childbirth educators for years ago. My wife and I did natural childbirth classes and stuff. And one of the things that we learned about was there was a drug that would kick labor off. You would, I can't remember what the name of it is. It's driving me crazy.
It's Pitocin.
No, it's not Pitocin. I'm not thinking of Pitocin.
Oh, okay.
It's something that they actually applied it. It was like they applied it directly to the cervix, and it would kick labor in like that. But the problem was, because it wasn't dosed, they couldn't control the outcome of it, and so people were hemorrhaging and dying because it would just keep the contractions got so hard, and it would rupture uteruses, and it was just killing people all over the place. But the crazy thing is, it was that, whatever, I can't remember the name of it, but that particular drug that they made to adapt to that was ultimately was first approved by the FDA to treat ulcer symptoms.
Oh.
But some OB or some doc somewhere figured out that
it slathered on the cervix.
It would kick off labor, when we all know that the baby starts labor, the baby's producing an oxytocin inhibitor, and then when the baby's ready, they stop producing that, and then labor starts. But that's not what the hospital wants to tell you. They say Pitocin starts labor, but they, so they would interfere with that. But I guess that's my point, is they approved it for this, but then they were using it for this. So it's dangerous when you get into that medication realm. It can be so dicey because whatever you're taking might have been prescribed for this, and so you don't know what the side effects are going to be for that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just
like the statins are designed to lower cholesterol, but they actually inhibit your mitochondrial function and create CoQ10 deficiency and eventually heart disease.
Well, that's why most medication commercials are 14 seconds of here's the benefit of what it can do for you, and then the rest of the minute and a half is here's how it'll kill you.
Yeah. So your eyeballs are going to fall out, and your hair.
Yeah. No, thank you.
No.
So, anyway,
But that's not to say there isn't some good there. You know, there's
no. There's some good medications
out, but
that are doing good for people. But it's in general, it's kind of a mess in the pharmaceutical world. But
yeah, and if you can get the body doing what it's supposed to do, then there's a very much lower need for those kind of interventions. And that's my point, is like, let's work with the body, give it what it needs to do the thing correctly, to reset your brain chemistry, to reset your immune system,
which isn't always the easiest thing, but it's the best thing, right? It's not always
sometimes it's simple, but it's you know, it's knowing what it is. You know, it's knowing the right nutrient to take. And you can't just go out and get a multiple vitamin to say, okay, I got everything covered, because you might be taking B6, which you shouldn't take because you have a specific genetic variant in the CBS gene. Or you shouldn't take too much selenium because it's going to fire off this gene over here. Or, you know, it's too much of a crapshoot. And so we're talking precision, you know, and getting, for you need this amount of selenium, you need this amount of zinc, you need this amount of B12.
I love it.
You don't need the folic acid, you need this, you know, and in this form. So, you know, a lot of people are taking like cyanocobalamin, which is a terrible form of B12. It's got cyanide in it. Most multiples have that form because it's cheap and it's easy to keep stable. But the best form for some people is methylcobalamin, which is already in like a methylated. There's that methylation group again we talked about. Yeah. So
no, that's great. Precision is good, man. Laser focused precision and that's awesome.
Yeah, for me it was just miraculous, you know, and it seemed too simple. Like, this is too simple. It was specific, but it was like, these two vitamins allowed my receptor to open, vitamin D gets in, and then all of these things happen. You know, vitamin D has an incredibly powerful effect on a lot of other genes in our body. It turns on something called the tyrosine hydroxylase that turns tyrosine into dopamine, and the tryptophan hydroxylase that turns tryptophan into serotonin. And so that's how it upregulates the brain chemistry. So it's like, it sets in motion all of these things. And for you, it might be a bad idea because it's going to cause the body to make more adrenaline. So don't do those. You know? Right. Don't do that. Yours would be different.
Which is what the test is about, right? That's why people need to go and do the test. In which you actually, we have like 7 or 8 minutes left. I can't believe it's flown by this much. But I got one other thing I want to get to. But before we do that, you told me, let's see, we have a discount code that I want to put up here. But what was that for again? Remind me what that was for.
$50 off the DNA test.
The DNA test. Okay, so that's what kicks the whole thing off, is the DNA test, and then that's where the options come in later. Like, if you want to go this direction or that direction.
Yeah, no. So it includes the first report, which is the Native Personality Report. So it shows you why you are the way you are. Gotcha. And then you have the option, if you want to go further, to get the diet and lifestyle report. And then if you want to go even further, we find you a practitioner to get you the other 3 reports. So,
gotcha. And so this code right there is we'll get, so you go to the website that we had up there, and then you put, and then in the proper spot you put invisible. Is that at checkout, or is that
when you go to checkout, it'll say, do you have a coupon code? And
the coupon code is Invisible50 with a capital I, Invisible50 50. So go and thank you for doing that. That's awesome. I'm very excited that you're doing that, because that just makes it easier for people to take advantage of it. So
to get started, and it's incredible. You only have to do it once. That's the good news, is like, your genes aren't going to change. So you only have to do the gene test once. So
no, that's true. That's a beautiful thing. All right, I'm gonna do that so that I can put.
And we test for over 675,000 SNPs. Those are possible genetic variants, and we report on about 585 of those.
Oh my gosh!
So it's a big, robust report. 23andMe or some of the other over-the-counter tests only test for about 20,000. We're 675,000, so it's a lot more robust than a lot of the other companies that are out there.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, here's the QR code again, and Invisible50, Invisible50 with a capital I on Invisible is the code you want to use.
And one more thing about that, we're very adamant about privacy. You never have to have your name or any kind of information about you connected to your genetic report.
Oh, I love it.
I don't want to do that at all. I think, there's a lot of danger there. And so, and I know a lot of people are reluctant to get their genes tested because of that, possible data breach. And you can't do it with our company because your sample was never associated with your name. So,
oh, that's awesome.
It's got a barcode. Yeah. So
that's great. Yeah, anonymity is king when it comes to that kind of stuff. You gotta be on top of that.
Yeah, you just gotta be careful. I don't mean to be paranoid, but who knows? Who knows what can happen?
You should be paranoid, honestly. I mean, how many times a year do we hear, some giant company with millions and millions of names and addresses and social security numbers or whatever, and there was a data breach and 90% of the clients were, it's like, okay, great, now I have to redo my entire life,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
yeah, one less company to worry about. That's good.
Yep.
So, that's amazing. Well, what is the best way for people to reach you? Because we're almost out of time. Is it just going to this website? Is there a contact form through there, or?
Yeah, there are contact forms. There's frequently asked questions on the bottom, but there's also, contact us if you have questions. We have a team of people that can respond to their questions. The phone number's on there and the email's on there, info@myhappygenes.com. So yeah, we're readily available. We're there to answer questions. And, I think this is new stuff for a lot of people. So it
really is.
It's a bit of a paradigm shift and a bit of like, what are we talking about? Let me go in there and take a look at it. And so, like I said, you got sample reports there. There's lots of information about how it all works. There's an ebook for you to get.
Nice.
So we're starting a newsletter, monthly newsletter. So yeah. Nice. And then I've got a lot of interviews on YouTube as well. So, and there's some lectures on what is methylation or what are genetics and how does this whole thing work. So you can just, look up my name and then go to YouTube and you'll be able to find those.
Phenomenal. And in your books, Holistic Kinesiology and Perfect Health in Paradise are both available on the website, on Amazon, both?
They're on Amazon, yes. The holistic kinesiology is more about muscle testing. And so, it was designed for people that are interested in that.
Okay.
Health in Paradise is about staying healthy whenever you travel, like what to take with you to keep from getting Montezuma's revenge or the flu, or if you get bit by something, or, it's the natural remedies that you want to take with you.
Ooh, that's fantastic. Okay. Anybody that likes to travel should get that book. That's really good.
I know. I've been sick enough times. I had E. coli in Mexico, and that was no. Wow. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. This is not happening. So.
No way. Oh, gross.
It's not
man. Yeah. Well, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being here. Unfortunately we're out of time, but this has been phenomenal. And I maybe we got to bring you back because I'm sure there's more to talk about. But
I would love to. And if you get questions in, you can maybe make a list of questions from listeners, and then we can kind of address maybe some of those or something.
100%.
I'd love to come back.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah. So, okay, great. Well, thank you, Dr. Dunn. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And don't leave right away after you close out or whatever. I want to chat with you a little bit afterwards, but thank you so much for being here and for being so open to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate the invitation. It's been good chatting with you.
You too. All right, everybody. Oh my gosh. I love this kind of stuff. I feel like I learn something new every day doing this. It's so cool. See, now I want to run out and do that test and get myself all straightened out, because everybody knows there's something going on that you could do better. So, and also, okay, everybody, I know if you've been watching for a while, thank you. If you're new, thank you. If you have a favorite episode that you really, really like, share it, because if it's your favorite episode, it's probably somebody else's too. So get on there and you can go to E360 TV, or you can go to any of our social media channels, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, any of those, and check them out and share away. So join us Tuesday, January 30th for our next show. And until then, have an amazing day, and we will see you soon.